you want to just talk to us about how you actually... No, I'm joking.
Yeah. So if the left-hand side of the phone, that's it.
Like that.
Yeah.
A little better?
You can tell by the chair, the table.
Oh, yeah, it's super. Well, Mr. Diaz, welcome aboard the Mind, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
Sweet. I feel like we should formally introduce you here because we've known each other a little while now. Who is Manoj Diaz and what does he do?
I love when people talk about me in the third person. It makes me feel real special.
Who's Manoj? Yeah. I want to get to that stage.
So I'm the co-founder of this beautiful place, A Space Meditation Studio. So apart from the meditation studio, we've had A Space, the organisation, for the last 18 months. We've been running workshops, programs and classes all through Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, and in New York last year, and in about 10 days' time we'll be there again, running some programs and workshops there. So essentially what we're all about is helping people become the best, most vibrant version of themselves. And to do that, we believe that becoming more self-aware is pivotal to that. Meditation is probably the key component of that, and living a mindful, cognizant, aware life. And we teach people how to tap into that. I've been teaching yoga and meditation for the last 10 years, and it's transformed my life. So I personally know the benefit of it. So for me, it's a great passion to help people have realizations themselves, knowing that they don't need to always go to Western medication or people that promise all these things, and sometimes the answers can be found within.
Yes.
And I know that from first-hand experience, because when I went through really challenging times, I tried to reach out to every single person. I went to healers, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and it wasn't until someone showed me all the answers that are inside that my life started to transform. I feel very blessed to have done that, and I feel very blessed to now help people find similar experiences.
I wanted to firstly ask you what you think happens when you die.
Oh, that's a really great question, and we're going straight in there.
We're going to go straight in.
Okay,
full bar, straight in.
I like that. It's for a long time my idea of death fluctuated. Like, there was, when I was young, I remember being really scared, and I remember going to my mum so many times going, I don't want to die. I don't know what happens. But then, I grew up in the Buddhist household. I learned a lot more about Buddhism and the experience of death. And in our tradition, death is it's constantly considered in our life, because it's one of the things that's inevitable. And in Buddhist practice, we work with the facts of life. We work with essentially what is true, and one of the truest things is that we're all going to die. Yeah. And
death and taxes.
Death and taxes, right? So I think for me, and the super religious Buddhists will consider death being either the circle, the cycle of samsara, which is samsara refers to the cycle of birth and death, birth and death, or if we become enlightened, if we become awakened in this lifetime, we don't. We stop being born.
Oh yes, yes.
And then where we go there is, again, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But for me, I think depending on the merits of our life, how we live our life, we can either be reborn into a life that is that has a little less suffering, or a life that has a lot more suffering. And what I mean by that is we can be born as a pig that's about to be slaughtered, or we can be born as a human, and it's a really great honor and a merit of our life that we're born as humans in my tradition.
Well, I think Buddhism, from what I know, and I'm speaking relatively ignorantly here, but from what I understand across the board of all religions, is like, well, I mean, to even call Buddhism a religion is kind of strange, but I mean, it's the only thing out there that really gives you like a practice or a guide to how to reach this stage of bliss. Is it really like do you want to go through the practices?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't refer to it as a stage of bliss. I think the basic way to explain what Buddhism is that we believe that in, and I'm not an exclusively Buddhist teacher, like I lean on many traditions, but primarily Buddhism. We kind of believe that there is suffering in this life. And suffering from, oh my God, like I've stubbed my toe against the floor, to the fact that, Game of Thrones is finishing shit. Like, I'm suffering.
That's the real shit right there.
Yeah. We believe that, life contains suffering.
Yes.
And the root cause of a lot of that suffering are things like our craving, and things like our desires. Not all desires, because sometimes the desire to get healthy is a good desire. Desire to help someone is a good desire. But then a lot of the time, our desire to be famous, our desire to make more money, can cause us suffering, and it's good to just be aware of that.
Yep.
So the Buddha essentially outlined what he calls the Four Noble Truths, the truths of life. Is that one, that there is suffering; two, that there's the root cause of our suffering is our craving, and then he kind of outlines an eightfold path to how to stop the suffering or how to alleviate that suffering. And that's essentially how it is. And you mentioned at the start, it's not really viewed as a religion, and I tend to agree that because Buddha never said to worship him. And his statues are all around the place and in every yoga studio in the world.
It was a porky man.
Yeah, right.
You sat around a lot.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But he never kind of spoke about worshipping as a god.
Yeah.
And he's not viewed as a god. He's viewed as a normal dude like you and I that suffered, like we all do, and then he found a way to stop the suffering. Essentially how it rolls.
So that suffering you talk about, and those cravings, is that something to do with those pleasure derived responses you get to I don't know, watch porn and masturbate or eat a lot of sugar and binge and shit? Is it that sort of stuff you're talking about, really? Or?
Yeah, I mean, suffering can be, it's personal, right? How much we suffer. For someone that goes through a breakup, it's okay, next person.
Yes.
So the suffering is very minimal for some people, but for someone else, it might be 2-3 years of replaying it over and over and over again. The difference for the second example is that the suffering comes from this person not being able to accept reality. And the reality in that situation is that all things change. Our bodies will change and deteriorate and will die. Feelings and emotions change over time. They either get deeper or the opposite happens. So not being able to accept that causes us to suffer because our desire is for things to be stable, and not everything is stable in this life.
And that's part of the fun of it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually quite enjoy with it now.
Yeah, right.
Having had a mic that just fell about 14 times.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Who was Manoj, the corporate dude?
Yeah.
What was he like?
He was a jerk.
Yeah.
He was a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean,
did he have tattoos?
No, he didn't have many tattoos, actually. He had a couple.
Yeah.
I think, for me and for many friends growing up in that stage of our life, it was all about trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was growing up and going to uni, all I wanted to do was make as much money as possible, hook up with as many hot girls as possible, party.
Well, that's don't be too hard on yourself, mate.
No. Yeah, right. But I think it was a very, very alpha male mindset that I was in, and that took its toll. I worked 60 to 70 hours a week. I was traveling throughout Australia, and I had an amazing job. I was making so much money, but I was spending all that money so quickly because I was internally so unhappy.
Yes.
I'd spent a lot on clothes. I'd spent it on booze. I'd go to fancy dinners, and they were all great. And I don't tell people don't do that sort of stuff because it's great. But I think for me, for me, I was using it to fill a void in my life because I was pretty unhappy, and it all took its toll on me, and eventually I had a pretty serious panic attack one day at work, and I think I mentioned to you last time, I didn't know anything about panic attacks or anxiety because I never experienced it. I never even knew anyone that had that sort of stuff. Back then it wasn't spoken about as much as it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a very pivotal moment in my life, that anxiety attack. It was single-handedly the worst experience, but also the best experience I've had.
Yeah. Do you know what something's really interesting as well is you mentioned how you were trying to fill a void. Where do you think that void actually came from? Because a lot of the time, as I did with myself and clearly you, is that it just creeps up on you and it comes out in the form of a panic attack. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
But this sounds like, and again, same with me, that it had been sort of deepening for a while there.
Yeah, I think the void is probably from a lot of things.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be just one particular thing. It was probably not feeling like I belonged in the environment that I was in. Not feeling like I had friends that I could lean on and talk about heart to heart. Probably came from an upbringing as well. A very, very challenging upbringing. So probably it came from a lot of things, but I think deep down it was not feeling connected. Not feeling connected to myself, about feeling connected to the moments that I'm in and probably the people in my life as well.
Talk us through that panic attack. Where were you? How did it happen? What was it over, if you remember?
Yeah. It was really, really random. I had a week that I was traveling from Sydney back and forth. I had a partner at the time that lived over there. So on top of all the travel I was doing, I was doing long distance.
Yeah.
And I was on my way to work one day, and I was getting plenty of sleep, so I didn't think that was an issue. But I felt like the heart beating really quickly. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I had a morning routine where I go to my favorite coffee shop, grab a coffee, and heading to work. And this one morning I didn't go grab a coffee because I felt the heart beating pretty quickly. And rocked up, and I had a secretary at that stage, which for me felt like I'd made it.
You were on.
I was at the height of my career. I had a secretary. Life was great.
Yeah.
And I remember her coming and kind of giving me a bunch of files.
Got a job proposal for you, by the way, after this, mate.
Great. You want to secretary?
Yeah.
Manoj. I came rocked up to work and I sat down at my desk. She came and dropped a bunch of files off, and she actually got me a coffee. And she was like, she went away, and then had my coffee, and she came back, and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, you look a bit pale. And I'm like, I'm black, like, is this a joke or something?
Oh, that's
and she's like, hey, you look a bit pale, like you don't look yourself. And I'm like, I feel fine. And then she kind of went away, and I had some more coffee, and then I started to feel the heartbeat even quicker, and it was like it was about to explode out of my chest. And at that kind of moment, I felt this rush of emotion. And as the rush of emotion came, my vision started to blur a little bit, and it just started to get really, wobbly in my head. And I couldn't focus on one particular thing. It was just like what was going on was the kind of the thing that was happening in my head.
Yeah.
The emotion came, and I felt like my eyes were starting to water. I felt like I was about to cry, but then there was the confusion of my brain also kind of going into that, and it was just both of these things going. It was like I was like wigging out,
100%.
To be honest, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, what is going on? And I literally just got up and just walked out. And then my thought was, I don't want people to see me like this. That was the first thought that came in, and I remember walking around the CBD, just kind of hyperventilating, and that lasted about 2 hours, and I was just. Yeah, it was crazy, and I called up a doctor, and I went to the doctor, and I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on right now, but I just don't feel myself.
No, yeah. Do you know what I think is really interesting? What you touched on is, I mean, that's a very basic survival mechanism. Fight or flight. It's like when we experience panic, it's a thing of, okay, we somehow perceive danger around us. Are we going to stay and adrenaline rush and fight the beast in the cave, or are we going to bolt, which is obviously what both you and I did the first time we experienced it. But why do you think that feeling of embarrassment comes along?
Yeah, it's a really, really great point. I think probably one is out of fear. One was like, okay, we don't want the people around us to judge us. But also for me at that stage, like I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know where it could potentially go. Like I didn't know if I was gonna kind of break down. I didn't know what was happening. So I think, I don't know if it was necessarily embarrassment, that was definitely part of it, but it was, for me, it was definitely, in my mind, I was trying to fight it.
Yeah.
But when I thought that, okay, I'm not getting a hold on this, it was, okay, what's the next option? And next option is to just be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of just ducked out.
Yeah. No, spot on. And I think for me, I feel like the embarrassment kicked in after the experience, because I kind of looked back on and saw the fact that I'd kind of let my fear get the better of me, and I was like, I didn't feel brave in that situation. It was kind of tough. It was tough to experience.
Yeah. The judgment follows that, right? The judgment kind of, why did I do that? I should be stronger. I exercise. I sleep. And I think a lot of us do that already. A lot of us do that already in terms of, if we stuff up something at work, or if we accidentally yell at someone that we care about, there's a judgment that goes on top of that, which makes it even worse, which actually is more deprecating than the incident.
And so Manoj, fast forward to now, you've just gone on a recent. We've just come back from a recent Vipassana retreat. What is a Vipassana retreat?
Cool. So Vipassana retreats are silent retreats. So silent retreats in the Buddhist context operate under two very different formats. One of them is the Goenka style of Vipassana. Goenka was a teacher, which is really, really intense. So you don't look at anyone. You are in segregated areas, male, female. You essentially meditate for about 15 hours a day.
Wow.
You don't eat after 11, and it's quite strong and physical and very challenging. Then there is various other forms known as insight meditation retreats, which is more my tradition, which they have Dharma talks in the evenings. Dharma talks being like particular themes that are covered by the Buddha. But then we also practice walking meditation, eating meditation, and it's a bit more relaxed. You still don't talk, but it's it's a little less physically demanding.
Okay, yep. And I mean, like even sitting on the ground in a tall position is hard for 45 minutes, let alone doing it to 15 minutes. So is the idea just to always be in a state of awareness?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, and probably with the main theme that you cover when you're in Vipassana is impermanence. It's not the main theme, but one of the main themes. And what that means, and then you spoke a little bit about death before, is that we contemplate and we reflect on how everything is impermanent, everything dies and changes. So our pain or our suffering or our physical discomfort also goes. But we are so used to, like, in the slightest bit of discomfort, we just move away from it. And you think about it, in terms of an itch. As soon as you get an itch, you're like,
yeah, that's a fair point.
You
got me.
Yeah, and it's similar to you're having a conversation with someone, and the conversation is uncomfortable. Straight away, you either just want to turn around and walk away, or you just want to fight with
Get the phone out.
Get the phone out, So when you sit for long periods of time, you realize that your ability to be resilient and to sit and notice this is so much greater than you think it is. And there's a tremendous freedom that comes from accepting that everything's impermanent. It's liberation, really, like knowing that when you embrace death, that you can live your life more fully. The little arguments with your girlfriend aren't as big as you thought they were.
Well, she makes it big, but
I mean, I'm sure she has good reason.
She's got a fair reason. She's fair. I'm pretty wrong most of the time. And so then moving more into like the spiritual side of things, I mean, because mindfulness is obviously a very good tool and something that I feel personally that you should always practice. I've tried to tap into that, when I'm just eating and when I'm just doing things like even now just talking to you, it's just cool to be aware of things. But we both know that obviously meditation can take you into another side, and you can almost fall deep inside yourself. And I wanted to know about some experiences you've had, if that's something you're able to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, as teachers, we don't usually talk about the experiences we've had.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, generally because a lot of the time people create an idea of what their experience should be like based on what a teacher says.
Yeah.
Generally I won't talk too much about it, but I will say I'll talk about some of the insights of
that'd be great.
The most recent Vipassana I did was probably the most challenging one I've done because I realized with 10 years of practice that there are moments in my life when there are uncomfortable feelings or memories or emotions that come up. I very quickly, unconsciously will call a friend up, or I will go and meditate. And in the context of meditation, we call that spiritual bypassing. And what that means is our inability to sit with an experience. So some people might drink when they feel uncomfortable. I'll go and meditate. Both are equally as bad.
Really?
Incidentally, yeah. So I mean,
because of what you're using it for.
Well, because you're trying to avoid the experience you're having. You're trying to avoid the feeling. Obviously meditation is a lot less destructive.
Calorically dense.
Correct, yeah, than getting pissed or taking drugs. But, I mean, there are worse things you can do for sure, but you're still trying to avoid a very normal human experience.
The principle still remains.
Yeah. So for me, the first 3 days, I was really depressed.
Wow.
And, I'd never experienced a depression like that because I don't think I've ever gone through a deep depression. But the first 3 days, I was so depressed and had some really crazy dark thoughts. And it was super challenging because I was in the middle of the jungles of Bali. I had no phone, no Wi-Fi, no friends to talk to. My teacher was busy doing his thing. I couldn't even go to him. There was no TV. I couldn't do yoga. I couldn't go for a run. I was literally the first 3 days in beautiful Bali, just in bed with the sheets wrapped around me, just going, fuck my life.
You're kidding?
Yeah. It was really dark because you had literally had to sit with a lot of things, and a lot of things came up for me. Like I ended a relationship recently, and the pain of all that came up. Then the pain of a life that I'd planned came up. Then all the other troubles that I'd been avoiding for years that had come up, and I just literally had to sit there and take it. So it was challenging the first few days. Man. The first few days were really hard.
And I find that I don't know if this is my mind just naturally leaning towards compulsion and just sort of but obsessiveness and but for me, I mean, I just got a thought when you were talking about all that, thinking that I'd almost find myself falling into this trap position where it's like, okay, I have to cop this, but by controlling the fact that I have to remain in this state, I'd almost feel an urge to remain in that state, you know? And it'd be tough to just, on one hand, realize that it's something you have to go through, that suffering, in order to get it through, but at the same side, not let it remain there so much, just observe your thoughts.
Well, you said something really interesting about the fact that you try to control the experience by thinking you have to have this, you should have that. My big learning in that experience was that you are allowed to feel any particular way. A lot of the time, because I am a meditation teacher, and because I see a lot of people that go through anxiety, depression, and OCD and that sort of stuff, I feel like I can't have depressive thoughts. And that idea is also something that comes from the mind, we need to allow ourselves to feel sadness. We need to allow ourselves to feel sometimes the anxiety. We need to allow ourselves to feel it fully so we don't have that hold and that aversion to it. Once we allow it to come and we just witness it, we just witness where it is in the body. And for me, it was my heart. I felt my heart literally just closing the first couple of days and literally just going into my body. I was able to just watch it without going, oh, my life is so shit because of this. Then it just kind of moved through me, and the thought will come, a memory of a past relationship will come, and I'm able to kind of see it and sit with it and not attach the story to it. And that's the beauty of meditation. You can see things just as they are without attaching your drama to it.
So, just to play devil's advocate thing, because I just genuinely find this really interesting, so how come you were feeling those emotions of deep depression then, if you were able just to see it?
Yeah, I think it was because I avoided them. I avoided them by just meditating for 2-3 hours a day. I'd go to yoga for 2 hours a day. Whenever I'd feel sadness, I'd reach out to a friend. I'd binge watch Netflix. I did all these things because I didn't want to feel what I should have felt. And this is a natural human emotion to feel sadness when someone in your life is no longer there. But some of us don't want to feel grief because it's painful. And we want to feel pleasurable experiences, and we don't want to feel unpleasurable experiences.
For sure.
And I think that's what causes us to suffer, because we, unless we kind of deal with things, they never really go away. And I had to, deal with this, and that was the only way I was going to move through it. And thankfully, I have, and I did.
So Manoj, what about the future? You mentioned before that you had an understanding of a plan going ahead, and I'm not sure if this retreat has kind of changed a little bit, but what do you kind of want to see happening in the meditation world in the next couple of years, with your facilitation, of course?
I think for me, it's just, I see this as one component to a really wonderful, vibrant life. And I think it's so accessible, and I think it's so simple, not easy, but I think it's so simple. And I also am very cognizant of the fact that I can talk about it till the cows come home, and not everyone is going to be like, yeah, it's going to make me meditate right now.
Dude, yes.
And it's and I get that, and I've got friends that I've known for my whole life that have not come to a class with me. So
it's not a good
No, but I think what we're seeing is that there's record levels of depression and stress and mental health disorders that are growing now. And this is a way in which you can stop yourself getting there Because the reality is, in 5 years' time, by the year 2020, 3 years' time, meditation will be depression will be the number one disease in the Western world, and it's just this is not a reality, but it will be.
Yeah.
So we need to either change the way we live, or we need to find practices like meditation or other practices that help us bring our attention into the present moment and not so reactive. So for me, what I would love to see is that meditation becomes just like going for a run. It just becomes like brushing your teeth. It's just something that you do.
Yes.
And with the help of some amazing companies like organizations like Headspace and Smiling Mind, kids are doing that sort of stuff. Kids are integrating into their life, and I think it's only a matter of time before adults see the benefit of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Manoj, I wanted to finish off by just giving you a personal quick plug. I've done a class now at A-Space, again, a-space.com.au, and I think personally the reason why I liked it so much is because obviously I can talk until the cows come home as well, but about anything, which is not the best thing in the world. But the cool thing about it that I loved was it wasn't just a meditation class with you talking at the front, guys, this is how you do it, yada, 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 see you later. It was a real... we spoke about it at the end. We all had a really good chat about what each of our experiences were. And the cool thing to note as well was that, again, you you mentioned that you're a teacher, which absolutely you are, but I kind of see you more as a facilitator, or I did in that class, because you were the first one to put your hand up and say, I found it really tough. That was a tough meditation experience for me as well. And, it's not all about, I'm enlightened, you can be enlightened too. It's like, I'm on this journey with you just as much as, and it's just as hard as it is for me, sometimes as it is for you. And it's just about learning your mind a little bit more. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, we can sometimes get lost and we can idealize certain people and think that they're gods. And I'm definitely not there yet.
Well, you got the tattoos, man.
Yeah. I don't know any gods that have tattoos, but
yeah, that's fair.
I think the key thing to note is that meditation it's simple, but it's not easy. I have days that it's challenging for me as well, but it's understanding that is part of our practice, and those days become just as powerful as those days we find like we're having blissful experiences. Our mind, from a neuroscience perspective, is working. Our attention is growing. Our compassion is growing. But we need to kind of just settle and soften into that.
Yes.
And just enjoy the journey.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Manoj, one more thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What do you think happens when we die? And if so, do you believe in a God?
Yeah. In a God, I don't know. Is my answer. What I think when we die is that I believe in rebirth. I believe in karma and reincarnation. So I think the merits of how we live our life play into what happens in our next life. And I definitely believe that we have many lives. So for me, like how I live my life and how I conduct myself with people becomes important, because I don't want to be reborn as a chicken or a frog or whatever it is.
Well, you'd be a lovely chicken, man. You'd be a very, very spiritual chicken.
Thank you. I want to suffer less in my next life. Ideally, I want to become enlightened either in this life or the next. And I believe that that's possible. And enlightenment isn't like this all of a sudden you vanish and go up into the sky. But you have a realization, and this realization is like an awakening, and you live your life differently from that moment. So I hope to get there one day.
Mate. Well, Mr. Chicken, you've done well. Thanks for calling, mate. That was awesome.
Thank you guys. Cheers.